So in this part of the video, I wanted to take you guys through creating battle groups in Steel Division. I've cleared out the ones that I've already made before, just to make it a little bit easier and a little bit less daunting to look at when you first open this list. The great thing about it is you can export and import lists or battle groups you've made before, so I didn't really mind hitting that delete button and clearing all my hard work. I want to create an airborne division. I'm going to model it off the 101st Airborne, so you can just name the battle group whatever you like. And then I'm just going to pick basically the pool of units that I'm going to choose from. So Breakthrough is a specific game mode. A lot of the deck building rules are different, so we're not really going to worry about that one. We're just going to play a normal game here. So we're going to take some paratroopers here. Now in this screen is showing you the total possible positions that you can fill. You can see this one is very heavily infantry laden, and aircraft, a little bit of dedicated anti-tank as a focus as well. There is actually more than 38 slots that I can fill, but I can only fill 38 slots. So during this part you want to have a quick think about what your game plan is going to be, because I know I've got access to some quite strong Phase A units. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to build this deck towards Phase A. I'm not going to have access to really strong armor as an airborne commander, so I'm not going to worry so much about armor. I'm going to rely on infantry, infantry and reconnaissance for some ambushes, artillery to halt any counterattacks, and air cover to help me deal with anything I don't particularly have a good way of engaging. Some dedicated AT would be nice, but again, I'm going to rely on some ambushes to take out armor, and my position here, my selection here is going to be quite limited. Like any good Steel Division player or Eugen Systems Wargame player, I'm going to start with Recon first. I want Pathfinders, so these guys are quite elite, 2 stars. You can only go up to 3, so these guys are pretty elite fresh off the bat. And I actually get quite a few cards per activation slot. Typically the way that it goes is the more elite they are, the fewer cards you get to use or squads you get to spawn during the game. So I'm just going to load up on these guys. The only difference here is these guys come with a Greyhound, but they're a fair bit more expensive. I'm just going to save the Greyhound for the last phase. So I'm happy with that bit at Recon. Now I'm going to pad out my infantry. Definitely need some leaders. So these guys give nice AoE buffs and they prevent surrendering and fleeing within a certain aura around them. So these guys are going to form the core of any one of my advances. These AB rifles are fantastic. I'm going to stick with these more elite guys. The reason that they're fantastic is because if you look at their weapon loadouts, they've got LMGs, rifles, SMGs, and a bazooka in the squad. Very rarely do you get that much flexibility and a squad of this size that's really capable of dishing out all kinds of damage. So it's a 12-man squad with all of these tools. I'm going to load up on as many of them as I can get. I'm going to get some of these less experienced guys in there as well. I'm going to use an MMG, some MMGs to hold some ground, keep the infantry advancing, free up the LMG in there to hold the ground, and these guys can lay down some more fire. I'm going to take a stack of engineers because they've got flamethrowers, really good for clearing out infantry and building some close quarters. Now for Phase B, I'm going to need quite a lot of bodies on me, so I'm going to need some of these glider rifles, and I'm going to need some glider leaders here as well to reinforce that. So hopefully I'll be able to take a lot of ground with my airborne troops, hopefully using only these 2 stacks. I can use these guys as late Phase A, early Phase B reinforcements, and then if I'm in a position to continue pressing the attack, I will do so with them, because the glider rifles, they don't have bazookas, they've only got a BAR, not an LMG, so they're quite a fair bit weaker, and that is also why they're cheaper. So I'm going to be using the glider rifles to hold ground and plug gaps in my reserve lines, and I'm going to be using these guys for small scale counterattacks later in the game if I'm in a position to do so. If not, I'm just going to have to draw a line in the sand and hold it. Now the next most important thing for me is I need some artillery. Again, I'm going to load up in Phase A. I want quite a few mortars on me. I like the 75mm quick time on target, and quick time on target, you can put a lot of rounds downrange. Rate of fire is not too bad either. And then right for phase C, to really break up any concentrated, like a concentrated panzer attack, a concentrated attack by multiple players, I'm going to take one of these 230mm batteries. So that's actually just a forward observer in a truck. He gets 3 charges and I get 2 of them, so that's a fair amount of artillery I'm going to be able to put down as the game progresses to phase C. I'm going to have a little bit of trouble against armor in phase B, but artillery is not really going to be the answer there. Moving over to the air combat, because I'm airborne, I need some guardian angels. So I don't really want to use a grasshopper because they've only got optics. I'm going to be relying on my heavy recon stack for this. I want to use these slots, as many as I can, for some dedicated air power. So I'm going to take these ones here because I can get 4 Mustangs for 2 slots, which is actually lovely. It's a very nice position to be in. Most of the time they're only going to get 1 plane each. Mustangs are quite good fighters, a little bit fragile compared to some of the other stuff that's out there, but they're very good for suppressing infantry and they're pretty good for some dogfights as well. So I'm going to be using them to clear out enemy air power as well. I don't really want to load up on bombs in phase A, just because I think the Mustang's real power is with its 50 cals. Come to phase B though, I want some Marauders. I'm going to take a couple of Thunderbolts. I'm going to pick up some more Mustangs, because I'm going to basically have one in the sky at all times at least. It's going to make my micro a little bit more challenging, but it's really going to pay dividends having these guys in the sky at all times to keep me safe. I'm going to use the Thunderbolts to knock out individual armor or artillery that I've spotted and zeroed in on. Use the Marauders to break up more concentrated attacks. And in phase C, I'm just going to pick up a nice big stack of mortar bombers. So now I need to think about some logistics. Amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. So I'm going to take a couple of supply jeeps to keep my artillery guys well supplied. I've also noticed that the glider rifles tend to run out of ammo quite quickly, so hopefully I'll be able to use them to resupply. I'm going to take one of these 75mm light tanks, just to have a little bit more direct fire support, and I'm going to round that out with a bigger ammo truck because I'm expecting to be dropping a lot of rounds. Then in my tank slot, again, knowing that I'm not really expecting to do a lot of work here and really be winning in the tank engagements, I'm going to take some M22s in phase A. You know, it's got a 37mm turret. It's only going to be taking out armored transports. But say for example, if I've got an armored car or a half track with an MG, or a special weapon, and it's really pinning down an advance, I can use this to break up that half track quite readily. And again, phase B, a little bit of some steward support for the same thing. Now I'm going to think about some dedicated anti-tank. I don't really want to take these specific bazooka units. They're quite fragile. And if I lay an ambush in the wrong spot and I get identified, they're going to give up to pretty much any infantry unit near them. So I don't really want to use them. And I've got the bazookas in the airborne rifle squads, which have all of the benefits, but they've got their own guard next to them as well. So I'm going to take a couple of these 37mm just to piss off any tanks I can find. Take some 57mm. I'm starting to run out of some activation points here, so I need to really be thinking about, you know, is the veterancy going to make a difference here with morale? Maybe, but I think having more of them on the field is going to be more important. And I'm going to round that out with some M10s to go tank hunting in phase C. Maybe not tank hunting, probably use them as snipers to pop off any particular any particular enemy armor that I can find. And then to round that out, I've got a couple of points left. I think I'm going to take some Shermans in phase C to be able to present some more armor there. And then for anti-air, I'm expecting my Guardian Angels to do a lot of work, but a little bit more AA in phase B would be nice. Just use these quad 50 cals. So I'm pretty happy with how this one's come together. I've built this list quite a few times, so I've got an idea of some of the things that I want to do and don't want to do, and some of the things that I want to avoid. Some lessons I've learned the hard way. So I'm happy with this list. I'm going to keep it here. I'm just going to show you some of the other options that you might have. So we just picked an American Airborne unit. You got an idea of some of the infantry units I can take there. And then if we have a look at sort of 3rd Armoured, you can see that their Phase A, they've got a very limited pool of options, but their Phase C is massive. You know, you're expecting to really just hit home in the Phase C part of the game if you're playing them. And you can see here that I've actually got fewer activation points because my average unit's going to be stronger, it's going to be tougher, and my grid is different. Very weak air power, very limited air choices, very limited anti-tank choices, lots of tank choices, lots of tank slots that I can fill, supported by infantry as well. So if you have a look at some of the tank options, so the Stuarts are there as well. Notice that the M22 tank isn't there. It's a little bit too light for these dedicated armor guys. You've got lots of different Sherman variants. You've actually got a named Sherman tank commander. I think this was added into one of the later DLCs. And you can see that as we move forward, there's actually different variants of the Sherman are all represented here. You've got a 76 Sherman as well. This one's an Easy 8 configuration, I think. And you can see that we've also got a jumbo in there as well, with the extra glacis plate mounted on it and the larger hull turret casting. And if we go with dedicated anti-tank roll, you can see I'm picking up 57mm guns in Phase A, and I'm getting 76mm in Phase B already. So my dedicated anti-tank choice here is significantly larger, and it comes with armored half-tracks that I can actually use elsewhere, whereas the airborne I'm just getting trucks and jeeps. So these choices are excellent for armor. You're actually getting a lot of versatility, a lot of bang for your buck. If you have a look over their recon, you can see that they can actually use Greyhounds for recce vehicles, and they can use them in Phase A as well. So armor can put a lot of armor up front quite early. Looking at some of their infantry as well, you're also got basically what is effectively a half-track, just an American version. And all of their infantry comes with that, or they come with amphibious vehicles. So these, their only real benefit is, is to be able to cross rivers, and I haven't seen that many in the game either, but they are a little bit cheaper. And you can see that their infantry is actually a little bit more armored than the glider rifles. So you can see that it isn't just a case of deck building, it's also choosing the pool of cards that you're going to be able to build your deck from. And if you look at their artillery options, you can actually get a Sherman that's a forward observer for 155mm batteries. You can get Calliope Shermans. You can get mortar motor carriages. So the toys that you can get is quite different. So these guys act as the P-38 Lightnings, F-6Cs. So there's a little something for everyone depending on what you want to play and how you want to build your deck. And that's one of the things that makes Steel Division really interesting and has a lot of replayability. But that's the boring part out of the way. Now let's get on to the fun stuff. At the start of any Steel Division game, what I like to do is do a bit of OAK. It's an acronym about basically how to analyze terrain. The first thing that I'm looking for here is these main roads, these main supply routes. You can see I'm tracing a few out here. Next thing I'm looking for is places I can park some infantry. So that little widget that you see coming up overlay is true line of sight from that point. You'll see it again here shortly. So the thing that I'm looking for is distances, how good is the visibility, can I see both sides of the hedgerows here. So you can see I'm thinking about parking a platoon here maybe, dominate those two fields. That's a big blind spot for me there. That particular one's bad to look at because of all of these orchards here. So I'm just thinking about where I'm going to park my infantry. You can see I've got friendlies to the right and friendlies to the left, so I have to hold this center right flank here, and you know, that's a nice little spot if I can hold it, so I'm just going to leave a little note for myself here. It ends up not working out for me at all, but it was, you know, best laid plans of mice and men. I also know I have to hold the right flank of the town. I'm not too worried about that. I've got strong early game units. I'm going to be able to hold out town pretty readily. So now I've got a handle on where I'm going to hold out with what. I'm going to start getting some my early game units down. I typically like to go some reconnaissance, a leader, and then a couple of rifle units to make up effectively a weak platoon. So I'm setting them up along the main roads here because I'm going to get them to use the highways to move quickly in their trucks. So I'm setting up the 2 separate platoons to make them a little bit easier to select. And then we're going to get underway here shortly.
Carried away, sir.
So you can see me a little bit confused here, and then I realized that this platoon is going to take a different road that I didn't map out earlier. And it tells you that your plan goes awry very quickly in this game of Steel Division, so much so that you just didn't read the roads properly.
Loud and clear.
Here again, I'm just looking for which buildings I want to take, which part of the town I want to hold, trying to figure out what the sight lines look like. You can see that the points have ticked over and I'm thinking about what I want next. MG to hold the flank, ammo just in case things get quite hairy, and a mortar to keep things interesting.
Nothing to report. Copy that, sir.
So you can see I got a warning that my Jeep is under attack and I'm trying to figure out where it is. I realize my second platoon here has run into contact, so I'm quickly disembarking, scattering into some hedges and trying to get some fire down on those enemy soldiers. Here I'm just taking a little bit more time to specifically decide which squad is going where, to help clear the town. Back over here, making sure that the fight's going the way that I want. Got plenty of friendly infantry around, so I'm not too worried about that. Got some enemy armor off the distance. It's going to be troublesome very soon. Okay, so I've got those immediate threats cleared. Now I'm just going to set up some perimeters here. Here with some infantry and some hedgerows, I'm looking to get them into those forests and start laying some ambushes for the armor that's going to roll on through.
Need some extra eyes, sir. This is where you get off. Sir, yes, sir.
I decided that buildings were a little bit too cozy, gonna push out that perimeter a little bit, secure that forest, get some eyes out into the fields surrounding the town. You can see here I'm going to be very particular about placing these guys. I want them in cover, but I also want them to be able to see both sides. Looking for that green shield by the cursor, found the spot, gonna park them there. And time to get some air cover, get a Guardian Angel in to start harassing that formation that's rolling down.
At your orders.
Mustang's coming in for a strafing run. I see it take some AA fire, but I didn't quite pick it. I don't have any long-range artillery in the map, so I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to bring in an AT gun to stop these armor advance.
Ready to take command, sir.
AA wasn't enough to deter my fighter. It's bought a window for my paratroopers to knock out the tank. They get a lucky hit and blow it up. I know I need to reposition them now, so I'm looking to shuffle everybody around so they don't know exactly where I am and I can maintain that ambush a little bit longer.
Sir. Moving out.
And here it is paying off a second time. The first hit, not so lucky. I don't get to knock it out. There's a little bit of random chance and elements that comes in there. These guys are looking to reload and be firing again. And there it is. We're
paratroopers. We're supposed to be surrounded.
Now I'm looking for a spot to park my machine gun. I want him on that right flank. I realize he doesn't have anybody to spot for him, so I get some pathfinders in there. Now I'm just going to zoom out, take a quick stock of the situation, see where everything is. Looking pretty good. Zoom into this flank and just keep repositioning and pushing that advantage I've earned so far. Now you're about to see the kind of pedantry I'm capable of.
Ready, sir? Here he's dead. Enemy is private. Ready to transport.
Here I've noticed this little pocket where they've pushed out. I've got some points. I want to get a base of fire going, and I'm going to deploy a platoon to try to cut off that little fang that they've cut into the line here. Just sort of scraping together a fighting formation with the points I have.
Ready for order. Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, that little orchard in front of my AT gun's is going to make it a lot less effective than I'd like, and there's a
First platoon.
automatic 20mm cannon that's just decided it knows where we are, and it's going to start shredding this platoon pretty quickly. I'm trying to see what I can do to maintain some sort of effectiveness here. I'm trying to find a spot for this AT gun, but I don't think it's going to work for me. This squad's pretty much dead in the next minute.
For God's sake. Roger.
So that was a little bit odd. Called in a fighter to take out an AA gun. The reason is, I think the enemy players, or the AI is going to decide to shoot the fighter before it's going to shoot my infantry. That's going to buy me time to reposition, find some cover and concealment. This zoom out that you're about to see is probably about the same speed as my eyebrows went up. I was wondering where the hell that artillery round came from, and I realized my friends completely lost this right flank. So now I'm just sort of wondering what I can do about it. I decide I can't do anything just yet, and I'm just going to shore up the ground that we've got. Starting to get a little bit worried about this advance that they're doing. I've only got, what, 75mm on the ground. I'm trying to pick a good target for it. I decide the AA gun is it. And that's all I can really do right now. Just hope that I can hold this ground long enough. My friend's got a nice long-range AT gun and he's taking out tanks for me. So if I can keep them visible, he can do all the heavy lifting.
Where are we headed?
I have nothing else planned for this afternoon.
Need some extra firepower? We're rolling.
I managed to slip these infantry units in just inside his fog of war, so I should be able to ambush a couple of tanks. I hear the enemy air contact alert. I look at it. It's a recon plane. I'm not fast. Here you're going to see some emphasis on combined arms ops. I'm trying to get this paratrooper unit in to ambush this tank. My AT gun takes a round at it and distracts it. These guys slip through the forest, land a bazooka shot right in the side, and now I've got immediate fire superiority over the area and I should be able to win that firefight.
Yes, sir. Choose your targets.
Bullets win firefights, artilleries win wars, and so I'm just vectoring in some arty to make sure we win. AT gun got destroyed. This firefight's looking to be prolonged. I want to counterattack after it. I get some reinforcements in to help do that. My artillery just landed, but I've spotted his. I'm just going to quickly change a target here, vector in my 75mm onto his AT guns, get some countering battery fire going.
Товарищ, не стреляй!
Artillery, at your orders. This is where you get off.
So you can see they don't know exactly where I am, but they're dropping mortar rounds on me. I want to ambush this tank, but it's not going to work. That squad's pinned down. They're not fleeing because they've got the leaders there, but now I've got tanks slipping through my lines and it's not good. Again, air contact alarm. Find it, it's a Stuka. Send a Mustang after it.
Where
You can see me search my toolbox, try to find something to engage that tank. That dark blue line here in this squad tells me the range of the bazooka. It's just about to go in range. I urge these guys forward. They've got a target on it. They're now going to engage.
He's down.
The enemies push forward. We've managed to collapse on those two pockets. Friendly AT's taken out the other bit of armor. We can push that enemy infantry back now.
Everybody out! For God's sake!
Damn, this thing is heavy.
Need a lift? Sir! Moving the gun, sir!
Cut to pieces, sir.
I've spotted that this front's copped a bit of attention from the enemy. I just put in some arty down, stop that infantry assault, buy me some time to get some reinforcements into that forest.
We'll find him.
For God's sake!
Name of the match, counter battery fire on enemy AA.
Locked and loaded, sir. I have nothing else planned for this afternoon.
Jerry's dead!
Here I'm sort of reading the situation, wondering what I can do. I want to counter-attack. They've got sort of dotted armor. I need a bit of breathing room to do that, so I call in a bomber. Might not kill the tank, but it should get it fleeing. That'll give me the room I need to get across that open field.
Primed and ready. For God's sake! Biggie in my own. Taxi ready.
Here's one of my Marauder bombers coming in now. It's dropped its payload. It's taken a lot of AA. I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen. So the tank's now fleeing. I was like, okay, now I need to make my counterattack. My friend's got the same idea, and now I'm looking to see what I can do to push forward.
Mayday! We're operating.
Calling a Mustang on that fleeing tank. It's not going to destroy it, but it's going to keep its morale maxed out, and it's going to keep it running for a little bit longer. I need every second I can get at this point in the game. We're about halfway through the game, and you can see that I'm really starting to slow down in effectiveness. A lot of these dedicated armor and infantry units are starting to come out. My more versatile units are starting to fall off, and I don't really have access to any new toys, and everybody else around me is starting to get bigger calibers and bigger armor.
We have men down!
I spot a little assault across here. I realize it's two flamethrower teams. I'm just going to mow them down with my LMG. But I didn't really see them until the last moment, which tells me that if I attack across the same vector, I'm going to have the same element of surprise. And it gives me an idea that I probably want to push across that little gap.
Waiting for orders, Captain.
Medic! This machine kills fascists. I have nothing else planned for this afternoon.
Sir, yes, sir! Yes, sir. We're suppressed.
Waiting to see a muzzle blast. There it is. Have some counter battery fire.
Smash the entire area.
I'm a little bit frustrated at this point because I've got this really nice opening to counterattack, but if I attack now, I've got nothing to hold the ground that I've taken, and I'm not in a position this late in the game to be taking those kind of risks. Alarm, identify, send a fighter. You know the drill now. Wow, they got absolutely pancaked. I'm hoping my fighter's gonna get the kill on that bomber, but I think he's out safe. Now I'm gonna overcompensate by getting a bomber in again, a small mini one, just to make me feel better. Well done that man, he's completely bulletproof. I've got a squad of 8 shooting him and he just can't kill him. I just give up at this point. Now we're going to see what my attention span is like. I'm waiting for some enemy artillery to fire.
Stay low.
Infantry cluster in buildings will do. Oh, wait, that's enemy armor. Fuck that.
Yes, sir.
Say it with me now. Squads out in the open is a great way to stay alive.
For God's sake! Fuck is down! Ready to attack, control.
I don't actually get as much utility out of my fighters as I normally do this game. The enemy had a lot of AA.
Reinforcing here! We're operational. I'm out of here. Drop 200. 6 rounds. Over.
I couldn't actually remember what I dropped bombs on, and then I realized I blew something up, so I was happy about that.
It's down.
This front's getting a little hairy. I don't have points for reinforcements. I'll send a fighter to buy me some time.
Ready to fire. Roger. Changing position. Out.
This is where you get off. Go on, Control. I'm out of here.
Just a quick survey of the battlefield here. We actually need to control majority of the ground to win. Looks like we're doing that. There's a little bar under the minimap that says 55% for us. I'm happy about that. Just making sure there's no gaping holes
Taxi ready.
and deciding what I need to do next.
Somebody knows where we're going.
Now I know I've got friendly squads coming up to replace these ones here. I'm now looking at the angles that I can take to counterattack and where I need to go. Then I realized I'm still getting a determined infantry assault into this forest, and I need to do something about that. Here I realized the enemy's actually hitting me with some counter battery fire, so I'm going to drop some rounds on them, but he's already got me zeroed, so they're probably going to pin me out. I need to get a leader on there so they stop running, but I also need to start pushing some advantages. So you can see here I've sort of hit with a little bit of paralysis. I need a supply, I need a leader, I need artillery, I need to assault. This game can get a little bit intense at times.
Taking heavy fire. Move on.
Just taking a minute to see if there's any sort of part of our front that's buckling, and it's not really happening. And I decide, okay, situation's not that bad. I need to get these squads up. I need to get across that road. I need to start controlling this territory.
We're taking heavy fire. Everybody out. Move fast and clear.
Waiting for fire coordinates.
You can see I was about to call on the strafing run. I'm looking for that bomber. He's already dropped his payload. There's no point calling the Mustangs on it. I'm going to sort of try to saturate the enemy air defenses by sending in all of my planes at once.
Plugging out. Any update?
So you can see the first fighter in copped a lot of the flak, but it's let the other one sort of operate. I found that there's only limited AA on this flank, and I'm going to get a nice bombing run here.
Ready to engage. We're taking heavy fire.
Spotted the opening that I need. That infantry's pushing back. I got some nice fog of war and line of sight blocking. Get some infantry up, time to cross that road. So you can see here at this point I'm actually drastically outnumbered, but I'm still managed to hold the ground. This is mostly due to luck and some nice line of sight control that I've got here. and having artillery and air support in my pockets let me hold that forest.
Need a lift?
Up 200. 6 rounds. Over. We're operating. Adjusting on target.
Ready to attack, control. Weapons armed.
What you saw me do there was just spread out as much artillery as I could. What I'm trying to do is break all of those individual pockets of morale and just stop that assault in its tracks while my reinforcements rock up.
Waiting for fire coordinates.
Get some flamethrower equipped engineers to remind them who the forest belongs to.
Guns primed and ready.
Here I can spot that one of my infantry squads is actually parked right next to a stug. They're pinned down, so they don't really want to fight, and I'm just waiting for the moment they decide to stand up and blow up that tank. But my friendly AT gun takes it out.
Supposed to be surrounded. I've got him. Ready to transport. Let's go.
My assaulting force has rocked up. I'm going to mix them with some of the defenders that were there already. Use the strong units to press forward, use the weaker ones to hold the line. I'm just setting up ready for an attack.
Any update? They're as good as dead.
This little air assault is actually a little bit irrational, but I was really frustrated my aircraft weren't doing much, and I wanted an air-to-air kill. That's just a recon plane. First Mustang doesn't get the kill, but the second one does, and I'm feeling a lot happier. So I'm pretty happy that my defenders are more or less in position and I assault across. So one of the things to keep in mind here is I'm using infantry as well as reconnaissance and a leader on the attack. That way I'm making sure that the recon can spot everything that they run into and the leader is going to stop them from running away.
We're taking heavy fire. Jerry's dead.
So I'm starting to get really worried about this forest. I don't even have a lot left to hold it, but my engineers have just arrived, so this should now be a foregone conclusion.
Roger. We're paratroopers.
So assault went across uneventfully, happy about that. Just fanning out, setting up this perimeter, putting the Pathfinder in the middle so you can see in both directions, putting the leader in the center of the triangle so you can buff everybody and start getting some fire out.
Repeat control. Attacking.
So at this point in the game, I'm not really looking to continue advancing. We've got a lot of ground, I've got some really strong positions. The only thing I'm looking now to do is to harass and slow down any further attacks. So that's really what I'm going to be focusing on this last sort of 5 to 10 minutes of the game.
My tail runner's out. I'll get out.
Engaging the enemy.
Bullseye.
It's right about here I remembered I'm actually only about 100 meters away from the position I wanted to hold originally at the start of the game, but I tell myself not to be greedy, and I can't even get down this hedgerow without getting pinned, so I decided to give up that plan entirely at this point.
There are two types of pilots, the hunters and the prey. Engaging the enemy.
For God's sake. Heading back home. For God's sake.
Don't shoot, let them burn.
Now I'm getting my observers on the field. They're going to be absolutely critical to ensuring that they don't get a nice sea-phase counter-attack that Germans are known for.
For God's sake.
Receiving loud and clear. Out. Fighter ready. Attacking.
So the observer can drop artillery anywhere in that white ring of him. I'm just waiting to get him in position. It looks like that right flank is in danger of collapse, and that's why I'm putting a lot of air power on it.
It's down. Heading back home.
Good things come in pairs, right?
Reading U5.
This is a Thunderbolt unleashing its missile payload. It was right about then that I realized I haven't actually gotten Thunderbolt in yet in this game, and I'm actually quite sad about that and decide that's going to be my next purchase.
Drop 300. 5 rounds. Over. Yes, sir. Hurry up, man.
Not sure what happens here. I start losing some frames at some point, so apologies about that. It'll clear up in a few seconds.
Hurry up, man. Awaiting instructions.
You can see the left of that screen that artillery's just started landing. So that assault into that forest actually bought me a lot of room in the C phase. It's a very risky thing to do as an A phase player, but basically all of their assaults ended up collapsing on that position that I was able to defend, so that made the C phase a lot less difficult than it normally is.
Clear the runway. Coming in hot.
Adjusting on target.
At this point in the game, it's just Adi for everyone.
Request fire mission grid 734536. I have artillerymen waiting for coordinates.
Five, smash him. Need some extra firepower.
Go on, Control. Fuck is down! There are two types of pilots, the hunters and the prey. Repeat, Control.
Here comes the Thunderbolt.
Receiving loud and clear. Out. Nothing will survive. Heading back home. Drop 300. 5 rounds. Over. I'm hit. I'm hit. Hurry up, man. Heading back home. Touchdown. I'm hit. Mayday! Mayday! Jerry's dead. Crowds in the open. Fire for effect. Fighter ready. Affirmative. For God's sake!
That position's finally been destroyed. I decide I've held on to it long enough. It's done its job. I pull my leaders out of there.
Out here. Eagle 1 ready. Bugging out. barrel.
Now there's only a few seconds left in the match, so I try to get some nice goodbye footage, but I don't think I've got the timing right. Didn't manage to get a snap of the payload drop, and me just wondering which unit got the most kills at the end of the match. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. That was a game of Steel Division. I really enjoy this game. I think it's a lot of fun, and I hope to see you guys on there.